Welcome to the Above Center Leadership Podcast. I'm Marcy.
And I'm Allison, and this is our chance to learn from leaders who know how to get results while staying above center.
Let's get started. Hi, we are so excited to have you here today. We've got a great guest. Allison and I are excited to introduce you to Jon Macaskill, who is a retired Navy SEAL, and he's turned into a mindfulness teacher and leadership coach. And what he does is he likes helping leaders blend mental toughness with emotional intelligence to lead with clarity and heart. So grounded in faith and forged in, through the line of service, Jon teaches others to manage stress, build trust, and lead with integrity. So, Jon, we're so glad you're here. There's so many different things that we can learn from you and your experience and everything. So thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you, Marcy. Thank you, Allison, for having me. I'm excited about this conversation. And I'm glad you said manage stress, because some people talk about the teaching of mindfulness and how it reduces stress. I haven't found that to be the case. I have found it to help to manage it. If there's something out there that can help to reduce stress, I would sure love to know about
it. Yeah. Let me know where that is too. That would be great.
Right.
All right. So let's actually start this conversation about stress. Like, what is your view on stress and how does it let's start more so. Navy SEAL experience. Give us like what you like to share with people of how it got you through certain levels of all the tests and challenges you had to go through to get you to this level of mental toughness. So just start 101
Sure.
with Navy SEAL experience.
Yeah, well, I think actually I've got to go back even further, back to high school. That got me through that Navy SEAL training, and that just built upon that mental toughness. And I'm certainly not one that says I am the toughest mental toughness expert out there, but I do believe I've had it developed over time. So I ran track and cross country in high school, and I wasn't very coordinated, so I didn't play football. I played basketball in like junior high, but then I fell in love with running. And my coach was like a second father to me. He put us through some grueling workouts. So I had this love-hate relationship with him. I loved him for who he was to us, but I hated him for what he put us through. However, his putting us through that actually strengthened us as individuals and then as a team as well. So much so that we just had a reunion, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. I'd gone back to class reunions before. Didn't really have a whole lot of fun with those, but we went back as a reunion of runners who had run for this coach over the different decades. And the common theme across those different decades was our coach had toughened us, had taught us to be more resilient, display more grit. And I think that played a huge part in who I am today. Now, fast forward, my senior year, I applied to get into the Naval Academy, got denied. And that, again, was a test of resilience. And my coach, he gave me a little pep talk. Hey, it's okay. You're going to be fine. Didn't get in. So I enlisted in the Navy. And I'm not sure if you guys know the difference. Okay, I see some heads nodding there, but officers enlisted. So I enlisted in enlisted in the Navy first. And then from the enlisted ranks, then got picked up to go to the Naval Academy. So my coach was right. Everything was going to be okay, and got in. And then the Naval Academy was challenging in more ways than one. And I think that just further honed that mental toughness. And then, yes, SEAL training was just like they put in all the SEAL books that are out there and the Discovery Channel special. It is tough. It's really tough. It's one of the toughest trainings on the planet. And a lot of people who are in incredibly good physical shape do not make it through the training. And that's because it's all up here, or at least 90% of it's up there. And it's all about mindset. It's all about mental toughness. So I attribute, the beginning of my mental toughness journey to that coach, who I still call coach to this day, 30 something years later. And everything that he put us through and helped us to design into our lives. It is a common thread amongst all his past athletes, runners, throwers for the track side, jumpers. We all have that kind of built into us, and it's just been honed throughout life. But yeah, the SEAL teams, SEAL training, it's tough, but I wouldn't say that's where it started.
John, what an amazing journey that you've had. As this is the Above Center podcast, and we like to emphasize the fact that life isn't always above center, but it doesn't have to stay below center. So, going through naval SEAL training, right? There were obviously times when you were pulled below center. So, what was it that brought you back above center? Like, how did you keep that mental toughness? How did you stay focused?
Yeah, I think having a broad why as to why you're doing something, and then having smaller whys as to why you're doing everything every day, that really helped me. So a little vulnerable moment here. I'll share. When I was at the Naval Academy, I had this girlfriend, and when she found out that I was going to become a Navy SEAL, she actually was like, I don't know if I can handle that life." Which, more power to her. She probably made a good decision, because it was difficult, it is difficult for both the SEALs themselves and then the families. But I remember sitting in training and I was laying in some cold water, and I remember, well, I broke up with the love of my life at the time. I broke up with her. She broke up with me, and I've given that up to be here, laying in this really cold water. And I can either stay here and have given that relationship up. And I know this is very young, immature thinking, but this is where my mind was at the time. I was like, okay, well, I've given up this relationship to be here, and I don't want to give up both. I don't want to give up the relationship and give up this opportunity to become a SEAL. So there were times when that was the small why. That, or my family, my friends, they all knew that I was going into training, and I didn't want to let them down. And I'm sure they would have been fine if I'd quit, but in my mind, I didn't want to let them down. And then the larger why for me, there's guys who go to this training, and I say guys because as of right now, it's men only. There have been women accepted, but none have made it through the training. But back then, it was men only. But anyhow, there are guys that go to that training to go to that training.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean is they go to tell everybody, hey, I went to Navy SEAL training. There are guys that go to that training to make it through what has become somewhat infamous as the Hell Week, which is a very grueling aspect of SEAL training. They go to say, I made it to Hell Week, or even I made it through Hell Week. But the bigger why has to be way bigger than that. It has to be, for me, it was, I want to be a SEAL. I want to serve on the battlefield amongst some of the best that are out there. And I believe that having the big why that you can look at kind of over the horizon, but then also having multiple small whys along the way is critical to staying above center.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just trying to imagine. So you had about 20 years as a SEAL and you moved into when you were a leader of SEALs. And I could see you almost like John Doe coming through, and you can put them in certain categories of who they are, but some of them had true potential if they could get, whether it's their ego that wanted the notoriety to get, the SEAL training. How did you help? Is there a story you could think of, like somebody that might have had that potential but
Mm.
they just weren't buying into the big why? How do you instill that big why in somebody?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. I mean, there were plenty of men that decided that in SEAL training, they decided that they did not want to be a SEAL anymore.
Hmm.
And those men have since gone on and accomplished many, many good things. I think the instilling the why at that point is actually too late. I think that if they don't have their why figured out when they get there, they're not going to figure it out while they are there. And their why might be, hey, I want to come and do this, test myself. I want to test my ego. I want to test how tough I am. I want to be able to go out and tell people that I'm a special operator. But the why isn't really to be a special operator. They just want to have that name. But the instilling the why, it's not going to happen there. I think that their why has to already be there. And to me, if you're trying to instill the why in somebody else while they are there, you're actually wasting your time and energy. And I know that sounds harsh, but those guys, they go out and they're successful leaders elsewhere. They're successful, company CEOs. They're successful members of government. They're successful members of other agencies that are doing great things. I have friends that went into the FBI afterwards, and they're hugely successful. But just being a SEAL was not for them. So actually, I think that if you are instilling a why, by the end, if that person gets through training, they're not there for the right reasons. And it's actually potentially dangerous to have people there for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, that's incredible. Because you do think about the type of endurance they'll have to go through to get there is one thing, but then to actually, wherever you get dropped around the world, to do a mission, there's lots of lives at stake. So that's where
Exactly.
that why
Exactly.
so important. So is there a time that you can like draw on that helps our audience understand? So when it comes to like mental toughness, a lot of people desire it. And I think we're going to start the conversation on stress. So I'm like, gotta ask about Navy SEALs first. But like a lot of times stress just kind of puts a cloud of smoke around us and we can't think clearly. So our mental toughness um weakens because of that. Do you have any like
Sure.
yeah, how do you talk about that? I would love to hear your point of view.
Yeah. Ironically, one of my biggest things is get your sleep. And the reason I say ironically is because in the SEAL teams, you don't get a whole lot of sleep. Your sleep is wrecked. You're going out and doing your work at night. But I think sleep is the foundation of so many other aspects to emotional regulation. I can tell you just this very morning, I did not get good sleep last night, and I have 3 young kids. And what they were doing in the morning, not putting on their shoes or whatever it was, they were just being kids. That was a lot more frustrating to me than it would have been if I had got a good night's sleep. So I think in today's world, too many times the grind culture is rewarded above all else. And people are burning themselves out. People are burning their people out by pushing them hard when it's not time to push, and not giving them space to take a knee, that proverbial knee, and really resting their body, their mind, and their soul. So I would say my number one tip, if you will, to manage stress, start with a good night's rest. And I know that's easier said than done, but there's courses that can teach you. I went through a course specifically to learn how to sleep again, which sounds ridiculous, but my sleep was wrecked after time in the SEAL teams. And I would say start there. It's like the number one domino to knock over to eventually get control of the rest of the aspects that are difficult in your life.
So Jon, you talked about the grind culture. And when we think about leaders and leaders, outside the military, a lot of people are thrust into a position where their why might not have been secure. And then they're leaders, they're told to be, they're however they define leadership, but that's where they go. How do you help leaders find a balance between that need for rest and that need for grind and the balance of life in general, and then again, keeping it so that we are, able to find that above center, find that why that keeps us up there.
Sure. Yeah, actually, when I speak, I speak about both of these aspects. I speak about grinding hard, doing the hard things. I mean, I was just talking about it 5 minutes ago, not even 5 minutes ago, where our coach put us through these grueling exercises that made us better as individuals and better as a team. And now I'm here talking about taking some time off, resting, not grinding. I think there's a balance. The story that I try to tell normally at this part of my talk is my wife and I, we went for our honeymoon, we went to Nepal, and we worked as part of a medical mission. Now, she's an orthopedic physician assistant. I'm a Navy SEAL. My medical training is limited to the battlefield primarily. And all these different medical providers are coming from all over the world. We're meeting in Kathmandu and then going into the mountains in Nepal. And there's a nurse, there's a surgeon, there's my wife who's an orthopedic PA, there's different pediatrics, there's all these different medical providers. And then they get to me and they're like, so what do you do? And I'm like, well, I'm a Navy SEAL. This is still when I was active duty. And they said, so you're not scared of blood? I said, not particularly. And then they said, okay, well, then you're going to be our dentist. And what that meant was we left Kathmandu in these old rickety Land Cruisers on some of the hairiest roads I've ever been on. I mean, like 3,000-foot drop offs with no guardrails. It was just crazy. And then we hike from the end of the road to the first village, and we immediately get to work. And for me, being the dentist was me sitting in a basket or on a basket that was flipped upside down, my patient sitting on another basket that was flipped upside down. And as you could probably imagine, you're not filling cavities in the mountains of Nepal. If they have cavities, you're pulling these teeth. So for those who are watching, you might be able to see that I'm kind of demonstrating how I was hunched over in this hunched over position for hours at a time, and working on these people's teeth, pulling them out. And my back ached worse from that than any Navy SEAL training. And my wife was doing medical work in the background. There are a lot of other people who were working on the kids, and we're working nonstop. Sorry, I know this is a long story, but just bear with me. And at some point, we all broke. Like, okay, I need to rest. I need to take some time. I'm not going to be able to see patients. I'm not going to be able to see these kids. I've just got to take 5 minutes. Got to take 10 minutes here. And to me, that's critical, is understanding when you need rest. Understanding when you need rest and understanding when your people need rest. And I think resting prior to that, that's laziness. But continuing past the point where you need rest is there's also danger in that. So there's a balance, and it's going to be different every day, depending on how tired your people are, depending on how tired you are, depending on what you've eaten, depending on, again, coming back to what I was talking about before with the sleep you've gotten, and then also depending on what's going on in your life. When we talked about stress management versus stress reduction, the only stress reduction that I've found in life is truly taking things out of your life that weren't there before. 24-hour news, social media, maybe people who bring a lot of drama into your life. But you've got to find a way to find some type of balance every day. And I don't mean work-life balance. To me, I don't believe there's such thing as work-life balance. I think there's work-life integration, and it's going to look different every day. But ultimately, you have to realize you're a human being. You're like a cell phone battery. That cell phone battery is eventually going to need to be plugged in and recharged. And the same thing, you're eventually going to have to lay down, or at least sit down, unplug from the internet, unplug from your cell phone, and just take some time for yourself. Same thing for your people. You're going to have to give them that time and space. So I may have just walked all around that answer. Hopefully I answered it completely.
Well, it's so good. Well, first of all, our dad's a dentist. So I think I did one canal when I was in high school with him. I'm like, I need to go to the Gap. So I can't imagine the Nepal experience. I was with you on that. But I will say, no, with our clients, we talk a lot about this. We do have a lot of time-starved working moms are in our demographic. And what we found is you get addicted to busy. And
Sure.
fill in busy, like a mom can fill in busy with anything. I mean, it could be work, it could be kids, it could be decorate. I mean, there's so many things. And so one thing that we've tried to help them do is introduce a to-don't list, because the busy entrepreneurs, like, they're so good at their to-do list. I'm like, okay,
Love
now
that.
it's a don't list. And that's a 24-hour
Yeah.
news. There's the time suck, the complaining. Sometimes
Yeah.
the stress is just your voice,
Mm-hmm.
exponentially making things worse. So I appreciate you saying that. And, I was surprised and then not surprised that you said the number one thing was sleep, because it also is one of the number one overlooked things, that so
Mm-hmm.
often your mental space gets so much momentum and your energy is so like up at the delta waves, and you can't slow it down because it's like
Right.
a steam, it's a train going so hard. But once you
Yeah.
sleep, you wake up kind of neutral again.
Yeah.
Love to go into a little bit about meditation, just ask you, like, for people that have the blessing of loving to be busy and loving to have results. How do you help them recognize when they need an oxygen mask or recognize how to slow their mind down enough to be able to meditate? Do you have any sort of
Mm,
techniques you like to for our
yeah.
demographic?
So I think there's a couple of things there. First, a lot of people who are addicted to being busy, and I can be one of them. I catch myself in that regularly because it's a dopamine hit. Hey, I'm feeling good because I accomplished everything on my to-do list today, and I got to come back to that to don't list. Genius. Never heard that. I'm gonna have to do that. Um, I love that. But yeah, the folks, one, I think a lot of them lie to themselves. They say, "Hey, I don't have time because I'm too busy. I don't have time to meditate. I don't have time to be mindful." It does not take a lot of time. It it can start with a 2-minute practice or even smaller. You just got to stay consistent with it. It's just like the gym. If you go to the gym for 20 minutes, but you do it every single day versus somebody going to the gym, once a week for 2 hours, the person that does the 20 minutes every single day is going to see the gains faster than somebody who's doing it for the 2 hours. You got to stay consistent. It doesn't have to be long. Start small. When I teach meditation, I actually just have somebody sit still for 5 minutes. I don't tell them what to think about. I don't tell them to control their breathing. I don't tell them, hey, focus on a mantra, nothing. Just sit still. Because in this day and age, when we're given the opportunity to sit still, what do? We grab our cell phones and we doom scroll, or we're like, oh, I'm going to read that same email that I meant to answer earlier, but didn't have the mental energy to do it. And then you read it and you're like, I still don't have the mental energy to do it. So I'm not going to answer it. I'll come back to it later. And by the time you're done with that email, you've read it 7 times. So there's a lot of time wasted in our day. And then also we need to realize that it doesn't take that much time. The supposed scientific golden number is 13 minutes a day for 8 weeks.
Mm.
And that 13 minutes doesn't have to be 13 minutes altogether. It could be 13 1-minute sessions where you're just standing in a grocery line and you're like, okay, I'm going to be here anyway. Rather than breaking out my cell phone, I'm just going to focus on the here and now, focus on my breath, focus on what it is I'm feeling, both physically and emotionally. You may feel impatient. Okay, well, why are you feeling impatient? Do you have to rush off somewhere? Oh, no, actually, I don't. Okay, well, then do I need to be impatient? No, let's just take this time to myself. So I think for the people who are addicted to being busy, well, and honestly, it's for everyone, because even people who are not addicted to being busy still convince themselves that they can't meditate. I actually so I have a podcast as well called Men Talking Mindfulness, and just interviewed this guy, and he had a phenomenal metaphor for people who are too busy to meditate, or at least call themselves too busy to
Yeah.
meditate. And they said, if somebody says, I'm too busy to meditate, that's like saying, I'm too dirty to shower. Right? Exactly. I get it. And like, if you're too dirty to shower, maybe you need to shower. Well, if you're too busy to meditate, maybe you need it more than anybody else. So I think that I think the Buddha, or I might be misattributing this quote to somebody wrong, but it's something to the effect of, if you don't have time to meditate for an hour a day, then you should meditate for 2 hours a day. And I mean, clearly that's an exaggeration, but I think it's a great sign and a great message to put out there.
Yeah, I love it. Well, we do one exercise we like doing with our like if we do a Teams workshop is we have everybody race on how to write a sentence. And then so you know what I'm going. Yeah, race to write a sentence and you're judged on time and neatness. And then right before you start this timer, you'd have them write in the left hand. And then
Oh
when they're
yeah.
writing in the
Oh,
other hand, they're so slow and they're complaining and they're like, oh, this is hard, am I doing this right? And they're judging themselves. And so
sure.
that takes on average, like say 45 seconds. But then we do in when they're regular hand, it's like 18 seconds. And that's kind of what we say with like mindfulness, like when you're on point, when you're rested, when you're clear, it's like writing with your right hand. It's pretty easy. So the example, which
Mm-hmm.
was simple, but very common, like with kids in the morning, like a happy dad, well-rested dad gets the kids off to school really easily. But
Oh
when you're
yeah.
frustrated or your mind is somewhere else, like they're slow, you're late. And, so we just try to teach that, like if you give yourself that 1 minute and then in our world, get above center, when you meet people above center, good things happen. It's just easier and takes like half as time. So you're not as
Right.
busy because you just, respond well the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. When I do workshops, I do something similar. I might have to start using that, but I have the class draw 3 columns,
Hmm.
and they label the first column Roman numerals, they label the next column letters, and they label the third column numbers. And I have them write the first 10 of each. But in the first round, I have them write the first Roman numeral, then the first letter, then the first number, and then come back and do that 10 times. And I time them and ask them how many mistakes they made. And it's normally, between 45 seconds to a minute to do it that way. And normally people make 2 or 3 mistakes, or at least they mentally are about to make a mistake and then they catch themselves. And then I have them do it again, but this time goes straight down the column. So 10 Roman numerals, 10 letters, 10 numbers. And it's normally like 15 to 25 seconds with 0 mistakes. And that's to show you that, one, it's easier to be mindful when you're focusing on one task at a time.
Hmm.
A lot of the time we have a PowerPoint over here, we've got Zoom over here, we got a phone call over here, we've got text messages over there, and we never get into that state of flow that really helps with being mindful and getting things done quickly and accurately. So it's a similar drill, but I love that left hand, right hand thing. I think I'm going to have to try that one.
It's good.
Oh. You know what I've started doing is putting a timer on for 20 minutes.
Mm.
And just for 20 minutes, if my mind goes somewhere else, oh, I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, I need to use the restroom, I'm like, I can wait for 20 minutes. And when the
Right.
timer goes off, I give myself permission to do as much as I need to do. I don't time it to come back. When I come back, it's 20 minutes. And it is surprising how much you can get done with a focused 20 minutes because it's only 20 minutes.
Right.
Like, and then if you string together 3 20 minutes, it's like that's an hour. Now you've gotten a lot of work done. And I do that with my students. It's amazing the feedback I get from what they say. Like, I can't do it because they are very, they need that dopamine hit, the scrolling,
Right.
the dings, the whatever. They have to have headphones on at all times. And so just taking it down to that just a 20-minute level and that's it. Uh,
That's what is that? I think that's the Podoro method, or I'm messing that up, but there's something to that
there
where you
there
do
is,
20
yes.
minutes on, 10 minutes off. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'd love to ask. I think one question we always like to reveal is a inspiring quote. So I think
Mm-hmm.
one that's like right on point with this conversation. So we'd love to hear your quote and learn a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So my go-to quote, I've got a few, but the one that I really love is do what you can with what you have where you are. And that's Teddy Roosevelt. And that line keeps me grounded, has kept me grounded through deployments, through injury. I'm on my second marriage. It helped me through my divorce. It's helped me through transition into civilian life. And it's not Teddy Roosevelt, but I want to say it's Eric Thomas, a motivational speaker, who has it in one of his talks. And I listen to it when I'm in the gym, and it always kind of helps me to reset. Kind of, it's a reminder that you don't need to be perfect, you don't need perfect conditions, you just need to start. And as a matter of fact, what we were talking about right before we hit record, Marcy, is I'm thinking about buying a construction company. I have no idea where to start. And if I wait until I have all the answers, I'm never going to get started. But I just need to start, whether it's leading a platoon or a construction company, through cultural change, or leading my kids through chaos at bedtime or in the morning. That quote reminds me that purpose isn't found in perfection. It's found in that presence, that resourcefulness, and in action. So that's my quote here on my mug. So
There you
thank you for
have it.
that. I love it. I love it.
Well, it's so awesome. And congratulations. Like, I think making the decision to do something is half the battle. Because once you get there, you are right with that quote, like with what I have and where I am, this is a step I can move forward. And it's so inspiring when I hear somebody being like, I'm going for it. I'm going to learn,
Yeah,
I'm going to grow at any age. I'm going to figure this out and be successful.
that's right. Yeah, I'm sure you've seen the quotes going around on LinkedIn, something to the effect of, I tried something at 20 and I failed. I started a business at 30 and I failed. I did this at 50 and I failed. And it's never too late to learn from your failures, and something to that effect. I'm butchering it, but bottom line, how are you ever going to learn if you don't fail? Like, right. So yeah, I think that's a great quote. Do what you can with what you have where you are.
Yep. And getting started is a choice, not a time.
Love it. But
Yes. I
Allison, I haven't
love
heard that one
that.
yet.
I love that.
We always say, don't let the start stop you, but Allison just threw in a new one for us.
I love that one too. I'm going to have to write down all these golden nuggets you guys are putting out.
That's awesome. Well, Jon, it was so great spending time with you. Congratulations on all of your successes. And we look forward to
Thank you.
following you and referring you to whoever we can. So if somebody in our community does want to reach out to you, whether it's for a speaking engagement or to learn more about your podcast or anything, how can they get in touch with you?
Sure. It's real easy. I just had my website redone, and it's literally johnmacaskill.com, Jon, no H, Macaskill.com.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us on the Above Center podcast.
Thank you, ladies. I really appreciate you guys.
Great to see you. Have a great day. So, Marcy, I know you said you only worked with Dad for like maybe one root canal with as a dental assistant, but I did that for like 2 years.
I cannot believe that. His story, I literally could see him and his wife in the middle of, what I would not think would be a very clean, space, and then him just pulling the teeth out.
Oh my goodness. But you know what? When you stay focused on your why, it
That's
makes it a lot easier.
that's true. But I love his story. I'm so glad to meet him. I know we had to respect kind of he couldn't share too many stories or, things like that, but I could only imagine the type of mental toughness he had. And so I thought his answer on the why was phenomenal. Having all the small little whys helps you kind of really deepen your purpose. And also his comment on sleep. I think so many of us don't get enough sleep, and that commitment. Yeah, you want to take a sleep course.
I'm going to go take a nap right now.
Yeah,
Okay?
no, that's a good time. It's so healthy. It's like good living when you're able to take a nap. So I think we need to honor that more.
Absolutely.
So, Allison,
all right, Marcy. Better together.
better together.
Bye.
Learn more at therebelcompanies.com.
That was fun.